Now we are going to discuss very important uh, model. It's very simple model for a NMOS transistor. Okay, and this is called NMOS RC model. The actual model of a transistor is a very complicated model, which is what we use in simulation uh, to describe the transistor in a more accurate way. There are various SPICE models that are there, level 1, level 2. Level 1 is like the most simple model, which also take into account of lot of things. So as you go to higher and higher model, it's common to use like a model level 50 model and all, which has like some 200 parameters to describe accurately the behavior of an in MOSFET. Okay, so but instead of doing simulation, it may be also a good thing if you can have a very simple estimate of how the transistor will behave in a circuit, a simple model to which quickly estimate especially the delay involved in going from the input to the output. So for such purpose we have a very simple RC model, and the two main parameters are the resistance. R stands for resistance. So R is basically the resistance offered by the MOSFET when ID flows through it. Okay. Resistance offered by the MOSFET when ID flows through it. So we have derived the expression for ID. So you can consider or model the channel especially through which the current is flowing inside as a piece of resistance. Okay, so you have a voltage and a current is flowing through it, so it offers some resistance. Okay, and depending upon that resistance you have the current for a given voltage. So that is one thing. And then C is basically standing for the parasitic capacitor. Now parasitic capacitance, I need to explain it further. There are various parasitic capacitances because MOSFET in general it is a 4-terminal device, right? So if we can draw the MOSFET again, so this is our gate, then we generally have a diffusion region like this. It usually extends little bit underneath, so we will consider that effect also. So let's call this as source and this as drain, and then we have the bulk. Okay, so these are the 4 terminal. Now this is usually N plus for N channel MOSFET, and this is a P substrate. Now there are 4 terminals and there are capacitance between these terminals. So we will look at those. So in order to show it pictorially, there is a capacitance between gate and the bulk. There is a capacitance between source and gate. There is a capacitance between gate and drain. Then there is a capacitance across this PN junction. There is also a capacitance. These are parasitic capacitance. When you operate at high frequency, these capacitances become very important in order to decide what is going to be the maximum speed with which you can operate these devices. And for example, your clock frequency, whenever you buy a PC, it will specify what is the clock frequency at which the processor is running. So the digital circuits has some maximum operating frequency beyond which you cannot operate and get a correct result, reliable result. Now these capacitances are named depending upon the terminals that we are looking at. So for example, this is source and bulk, so this is CSB, and this is CDB, and this is CGD, this is CGS, and this is CGB. Okay, so I have denoted 5 parasitic capacitance. These are capacitances which are inherent inside the device. So we need to look at what will be the value of this capacitance, or what decides these capacitance. Now before we proceed for that, I want to mention why I am drawing this N plus region little bit underneath the oxide region. Okay, it is extending, and that is usually the case when you actually manufacture. There are several processes, steps that manufacturing will go through, and the way of creating N plus region in a P substrate is by a process called ion implantation. We will look at these processes later in later classes. So there will be ions of the N type impurity will be implanted into the substrate with some mask. Okay, so it will only fall actually the region which is to the left of the oxide. The oxide will be a thick layer which will be initially formed, and they will somehow stop the ions coming from above, and it will only fall on the left side, on both the source as well as the drain side, and creating a N plus region. But then what happens is that in a later step we would do what is called as annealing. Annealing is a process which follows the ion implantation. So what we do is basically we heat the substrate so that whatever disorders which are created in the crystal due to the ion implantation process, that will be rectified, because the atoms or ions will move to its actual position in the crystal lattice. Okay, and they will become a regular periodicity will be recovered. So while you are doing ion implantation, there will be rupture of this crystalline lattice. Okay, so which need to be repaired. So for that we use an annealing, and annealing is a process of raising the temperature of the substrate and keeping it for some time so that it will naturally heal, and the ions will come back to its lattice positions, so that the dislocations and the vacancies created, everything will disappear. So when you do that, what happens is that the impurity which is implanted will also move to every side. So some of them will move to under the oxide and extending the N plus region to that. So that is why we are drawing like this. Now the distance L is therefore effectively it is between two N plus region, and therefore it is not exactly the oxide length, it is basically little lesser than the length of the oxide. So we need to count it from the edge of the N plus diffusion region on the left side to that of the edge on the drain side. So this extra difference, so this difference here, so this is called L overlap. Okay, so both side we have an L overlap, usually it is symmetric, so both side we have L overlap. So the drawn length LD is basically L which we use in current. So this is the L that we use in current equation. It is a reduced length from the drawn length, when you draw the layout, we will draw the length as LD, but actually when you manufacture it, we will get a lesser than that. So that will be L minus drawn length minus sorry, the other way. So L is equal to the actual length is equal, actual length finally we will get is equal to the drawn length minus 2 L overlap. So this is some extra detail. Okay, so that result in a capacitance. Okay, this extension of N plus region underneath the oxide layer create a capacitance because if you look at here, so you can have a positive charge here, and similarly you can have lot of negative charge here. So you can see there is a capacitance here, something like a parallel plate capacitance. So this capacitance is there at the source side as well as on the drain side, and this is called overlap capacitance. Okay, so let me define what is called as overlap capacitance. So overlap capacitance is C overlap, and C overlap is what? C overlap, usually capacitance is denoted first initially this is an oxide capacitance, because in between this metal and this N plus region you have an oxide, and so that will be decided by the Cox. Okay, that is per unit area. This you need to multiply with the area of the plate. So what is the area of the plate? And that will be basically L overlap. So that will be this distance, and this device is 3-dimensional, so it has a W which is going in this direction, right? So this N plus region is extending into the plane, and we are basically drawing the cross section. So if you show the extension into the plane, then it will be W is the depth. So L overlap, so we have a strip like this which is L overlap, and then W like this. So this is the kind of capacitance that we have. Okay, so two plate will be there, one will be positive, other will be negative. Okay, so between them there is a capacitance. So this is the capacitance we are talking about, overlap capacitance. So this multiplied by W. Now L overlap is usually a process parameter. This is a process parameter. It cannot be under our control. It will be depending upon where you manufacture, which fabrication lab you do it, depending upon that it will be decided. Whereas W is a design parameter. That is something that you specify as a designer. Okay, and Cox is also a process parameter. So you can write this Cox into L overlap together, and then so this way it is common to write in this manner. So then you have to define it as some new capacitance per unit length. So this is capacitance per unit length. So this is just to distinguish between process parameter and design parameter. That is a common practice. So Cox is also a process parameter. So we can combine this process parameter as one thing. You can give it some name also, and then so that will have a unit which is per unit length, maybe farad per or say it will be of the order of femtofarad, etc. Per unit length. Okay. Okay, so that is one thing, and there is an overlap capacitance on the left side as well as on the right side. So now let's look at the second capacitance, which is the gate capacitance. Now what is gate capacitance? Now this is a slightly more complicated thing to evaluate. First of all, we need to discuss the CV characteristics. Okay. Which is something that I did not discuss earlier. We could have discussed it in an earlier class. So, which is basically a plot of VGS versus C. So this is what we call a C. If you plot the capacitor, so the way to so there is usually a setup to characterize the CV diagram of a MOS capacitor. So MOS capacitor, you remember we learned earlier, and we can do a CV characteristic. So let me just show you the setup for it. So basically you need to bias the so if you have a okay, so I'm just drawing a MOS capacitor. So this is the oxide, and this is our gate, and this is our bulk. So I'm just showing only gate and bulk, and then we want to find out the CV characteristics. What we do is basically we apply a sinusoidal signal. Okay, this is a sinusoidal, which is of a smaller amplitude, and maybe some millivolts or something like that, and then another voltage source in series, which is a ramp signal. Ramp signal means it will increase its voltage gradually at a slow rate. It will rise the voltage. It's a DC voltage. So this is AC and this is DC, slowly varying DC voltage. And okay, so this is connected to the gate, and this end is basically our ground. So you can see that two voltage sources connected. One is basically an AC source, which is a very small amplitude, millivolts, and the other is VGS, basically the DC voltage VGS. That means what is the DC voltage connected between the gate and bulk. So that may be varying from 0 to 5 or something like that, or -2 to +5, like that. It will vary gradually. Because we are interested in measuring the capacitance between gate and bulk. So that is our aim, and how that capacitance depends on the DC VGS that we apply. Okay, so then how do we measure the capacitance? By measuring the reactance. So for measuring the reactance, what we need to measure the so we need to measure the voltage using, so we need a voltmeter which will measure the AC voltage. Okay, so this will measure the AC voltage. It will not take any current. The current will, whatever current is coming, it will go. We will assume that the current through this is negligible and it is 0. Voltmeters usually don't take any. So this is an AC voltmeter which will measure the AC voltage which is applied across this capacitance or MOS capacitor, and then we also need to measure the current. So to measure the current, you know that you have to insert an ammeter here. So we will insert an ammeter. So the current is basically an AC current. So this is AC current and this is AC voltage, AC voltmeter, and this is AC ammeter. Okay, so AC ammeter, the voltage drop across the AC ammeter is 0. Okay, it offers very small resistance, negligible resistance, and therefore no voltage is dropped across it. It will only just measure the current passing through it. whereas AC voltmeter, it will not pass through any current through it, because it has very high resistance, okay, input resistance. Okay, so this is the setup that we will use. So we will vary this ramp function. It's like gradually you can do it. If you are doing it in the lab, you by hand you vary this DC voltage, keep it at some point, and then apply the AC voltage and measure the AC current, and then note down those values. Then again you change the DC voltage, again repeat this measurements, AC voltage and AC current, and from AC voltage and AC current you can take you can find out the reactance of it, because this will have some frequency also here. So XC, we know that it is 1 by omega C. So this is what we will get as the ratio of V and I. Okay, if I just put the magnitude without any phase, we are not looking at the phase, we are only looking at the magnitude of AC voltage and AC current. We take the ratio, we get 1 by omega C. So if you substitute your omega here, say 1 kilohertz, and then you can find out your C from this expression. So therefore your C is basically V by I into sorry, this is 1 by C, or C is basically I by V omega. Okay, so this is what we will have. Okay, so this way we find out the capacitance at various DC voltages. Okay, DC voltage is changing, we take lots of points. So for each point you will get some values, and the characteristics, how it will look like is something like this. There will be a decrease like this, and it will come to a minimum, and then it will again increase back. Okay, so this is how the gate capacitance varies with respect to VGS. So okay, so the VGS is decided by this DC voltage. So as you vary the DC voltage at a different operating point, you have the capacitance offering different values. And if you look at these voltages, your VTH will be somewhere, your VTH is when you have a strong inversion. Okay, so and yeah, okay, so why this capacitance is reducing? So that is one thing that we need to look at. The capacitance is reducing because the depletion region is getting created. So let's look at a negative voltage initially. So that is like this region. When VGS is negative, so you are basically bringing negative charge. You are bringing negative charge. This is a P substrate, so there will be lot of holes here. In that case, it is basically operating in the accumulation region. So this is basically your accumulation. Okay. So in the when you apply a negative voltage, we have the device operating in the accumulation region, and therefore the capacitance that we will see, the gate capacitance, is basically the Cox. Okay, so this is basically Cox. This level is corresponding to Cox. If I denote the capacitance per unit area, this will be Cox, because there is no depletion region right now, or even if it is there, it is too negligible, so we can ignore it, and therefore the capacitance is only due to the oxide capacitance. Okay, so there is two plates, in between there is an oxide layer, and that capacitance is Cox. But when you give a positive bias, what will happen? The depletion region begins to get created. These holes will be pushed away, which makes negative charge coming here. So this is the depletion region. This process we have studied earlier, and now we are applying positive voltage, which means plus charge will be on the plate, metal plate, and there will be depletion region extending. And as you increase this positive voltage, more and more negative ions are created, and we have seen earlier that there will be a maximum depletion width, XD max, if you remember, that we have calculated earlier, and that maximum width corresponds to the. So what is the effect of this depletion region getting created? Earlier, every charge, the holes were like, or the mobile charges were at the interface, but now they cannot be, there cannot be any such a charge there. But some of this field lines, if you look at, they will go inside. Some will terminate here, some will go deep inside into the depletion region. So they will be terminating at all points in the negative charges. So which means that this is like two capacitors in series. Okay, one is the oxide capacitor, one is this depletion capacitance. So you can model it that way. So in the depletion mode of operation, so that is here. In the depletion mode of operation, so this region, this is basically the depletion mode, where you have the depletion region getting created. So you will have two capacitor. One is basically the Cox, which is per unit area, and then you have another capacitor, which is the depletion capacitance in the silicon. Okay, so this we can give a different name. Okay, let's say CS. Okay, and this CS is basically the maximum or the minimum value of that Cx is corresponding to the maximum width, because as the depth of the depletion region increases, the capacitance reduces. It's like the insulating region, when it becomes larger in a parallel plate, you have lesser capacitance, because the capacitance value is given as epsilon s. Now it is silicon, epsilon s divided by x d max. Okay, so xd max is the maximum depletion region width, so that will corresponds to a minimum value of CS, and they are in series. So the oxide capacitance is basically the effective capacitance of these two series combination. Okay, so this is going to be the gate capacitor, CG. So CG is basically a series combination of Cox and CS, and so therefore we can write CG as when capacitors are in series. What is the effective capacitance? You must be remembering your formula from earlier classes, that it is basically like resistors in parallel, that sort of formula we have. So which is basically Cox into CS divided by Cox plus CS. Okay, so that will be the effective capacitance, and this is going to be definitely smaller than Cox. Okay, so this is going to be lesser than Cox. So that is why there is a reduction. So how smaller than Cox is determined by the smallness of the value CS. Okay, so CS becomes smaller when maximum depletion region width is reached, and then once you create a strong inversion, then what happens is that from then on, so I think I should, this VTH should be here. So this is the VTH where we have the strong inversion happening, and from that time onwards, so once the strong inversion happens, you have the electron channel created there, and from there onwards the depletion region width does not rise. Okay, Even if you increase the voltage, the depletion region width does not rise. What happens is that the inversion channel become more and more electrons will be coming over there, which will stop all the field which are coming from the gate plate at the interface itself. So hardly very less field flux lines go downside. It will still continue, but if you compare the flux lines stopping at the interface with those which are going downward, those which go downward will be very negligible. Once the inversion is created, means the electron concentration at the interface is going to be so huge. Okay, so under that assumption, what will happen? The effect of the depletion region capacitance, or in other words, if I say the CS is going to increase. Okay, so this is the minimum value that we had, but then from there we will have CS going to increase because of the mobile charges which are coming. Earlier these mobile charges were not there, and therefore we had to consider the CS in series with the COX. But now once the mobile charges comes here, the situation is like no change in the psi S potential. So what is psi S potential? The potential in the across the depletion region. So this will not change significantly, but the charge which is going to be appearing at the interface is going to change tremendously. So if you look at the capacitance equation, C is what? C is basically Q by V. Okay, so now you are able to change Q to some large amount, delta Q, but the voltage is not changing much. Okay, because of the exponential relationship. So the voltage is varying by very small amount. So that is the scenario. Once the strong inversion happened, delta V is negligible, but delta Q is very large. So once the strong inversion begins to happen, by varying we have solved some problems in an earlier class, like by varying some millivolts, you can vary the charge, the mobile charge on the interface by a significant amount. You remember that exponential relationship that we looked at, which was basically concentration of electron is equal to Ni into e raised to what? E raised to EF, sorry, it was EI, yeah, it was EF, okay, yeah, it was EF minus EI by KBT. So if you remember this equation, and then I said that EF minus EI is what? EF that is basically your so there was a band bending, if you remember. So I cannot repeat everything, but if you remember the EI which is coming like this, it will bend like that, and it will get initially at low voltage it will be like this, but then when you apply high voltages, what will happen? PMOS will be converted to NMOS. So this is like a PMOS situation. EF is here, and this is your EI. But then when you apply large voltages, what will happen is you will have EF here fixed, and then EI here, and this EI will bend like this. Okay, so EI will go and then above this you have so this is EV and then EC, and this also will bend by the same amount. Okay, so this is like now P device changing to N device. Okay, so how much is this difference? That will decide your so EF minus EI, if it is changing by some millivolts also, the change in the electron is going to be tremendous because of the exponential relationship. That's what I said. So if you look at the capacitance here, that is the voltage dropped across the bulk or the depletion region is very negligible, but the change in the electron concentration is going to be very for 60 millivolt you will get the electron concentration multiplying by a factor of 10. So it is like 1 order of magnitude per 60 millivolt. That is the kind of changes that we will have. So which means that it is going to be a very huge capacitance. So CS will go to a very huge capacitance after the strong inversion. So in a parallel combination, if one of the capacitance is very large, say for example if CS is very large, then I can neglect this denominator Cox and write it as CS by CS, and this will get cancelled, right? And that therefore I will get it as Cox itself. So that is why it is coming back. Okay. Let me know if that is clear enough or not. If there is anything unclear, let me know. So accumulation region, only oxide capacitance were there, but then when we enter into the depletion region is there is lot of voltage which is getting dropped, and due to the value of CS and the parallel combination, our capacitance is reducing. And then once the strong inversion happens, we have the scenario where the mobile carriers are going to become tremendously increased for small change in voltage of the surface potential. Okay, psi s is changing only by 60 millivolt, but the concentration of electrons are multiplied by 10. So 120 millivolt means it becomes 100 times. So if there is a 10 raised to 16, from 10 raised to 16 to go to 10 raised to 18 per centimeter cube, you only need to change the voltage psi s by a factor of 120 millivolt, which is 0.12 volts. Okay, so with small change in the voltage, you get large change in the charges, and therefore the semiconductor capacitance CS okay is going to be very large. Okay, it's going to be very large, and as a result, when you take the series combination of two capacitance, it will be the smallest capacitor. You will get it as Cox itself. So that is why it is going back. Now whenever an NMOS transistor is operating in a particular region, so the point to be taken is the gate capacitance, the parasitic capacitance we are looking at. So the gate capacitance is one of the capacitance. So that capacitance value is determined by the region of operation. So now mostly when we operate the device, so we will either operate at saturation, or we will operate at cutoff. Okay, we apply the gate voltage will be either 0 or we apply VDD. So it generally goes from this point here. Okay, this is one point, and then another point is somewhere here. Okay, so in both cases you can see that the gate capacitance is what? The gate capacitance is entirely Cox. So we don't need to bother for digital applications. We don't need to bother about this variation. So that makes it simpler. But if it is analog operation, then where we are biasing the VGS, that will decide the gate capacitance. So the parasitic capacitance will be determined by the operating point there. But for digital applications, since we are applying to the gate either VDD, so that will be somewhere here. Okay, this is our VDD, and then we have 0 volt. So these are the two voltages that we give at the gate. So it will operate either here or here, and in both cases we have our capacitance value as Cox. Okay, so that we can now write what is the Cox. Since for digital application the gate capacitance is given by Cox, that is capacitance per unit area, and then W into L is the area of the plate, right? So we have a gate. So if I show it in 3D way like this, So this is our W, and then this is our length. Okay, so here is our source, and here this side is our drain. Okay, and this is the other dimension, which we call as W. Usually W is always greater than L. L is the smallest feature size for the device, and then W will be larger in the design parameter. Okay, L and W are design parameters. So this area, this is the area of the gate capacitance, because all the charge will be here, and similarly there is a area at the bottom also, depending upon the region. If it is an saturation region, it will be fully a layer of electrons. If it is cut off, then means it is just the bulk region. Okay, so it will look like this. So this capacitance is what we are now talking about. So this is what we call as the gate capacitance. So gate capacitance is given by these two. Okay, so this is the oxide capacitance, which is capacitance per unit area multiplied by the area of the plate. So that will give you total capacitance. Okay, so now let's move on to the third capacitance. So number 3, right, it is number 3. We had first overlap capacitance, then we had gate capacitance, now number 3. So what is this? The third capacitance is basically the junction capacitance. Okay. Now again, the calculation of junction capacitance also. Okay, so where does this comes from? Again, we have to draw this. And there is a n plus diffusion region here and an n plus diffusion region here, and this n plus region with the p substrate create a p-n junction. Okay, so earlier we looked at so this is a p-n junction, and there is a depletion region like this, another p-n junction here. Okay, so this is p side, p substrate is the p side, and n plus is n side. So whenever there is a p-n junction, depending upon the voltage, if there is a 0 voltage, there will be a corresponding capacitance, and the capacitance value changes as you change the voltage between the p-n junction. So and the reason for that is because if you look at a p-n junction, so this is the p side and the n side, there is a depletion region here. Now if I apply a voltage like this, no, this is forward biasing. So we said earlier that we will not forward bias this junction, we will always reverse bias this junction. So if I reverse bias the junction, what is going to happen? A voltage is applied, this depletion region width will increase. From the earlier value, it will go to the new value. So this was our earlier value when V was 0, but then it will go to a new value. The new value is the increased value. So that means the insulator between, or the region where there is no charge carriers, mobile charge carriers, that increases. Okay, and due to that increase, the capacitance will decrease. Okay, as the insulating region between the parallel plate gets more separated, then the capacitance is going to further increase. So this is what we call as the junction capacitance. Now to see the junction capacitance, we need to look at or estimate the value of the junction capacitance. We need to look at the value of it. So this value or the expression for this capacitance will depend upon the kind of doping that we do. That means when we go from p side to n side, how does the impurity changes? So one way is that you have Na on this side up to here, and then Na is 0 on the other side. So this is Na, and abruptly it goes to 0. From Na to the impurity concentration, acceptor impurity concentration abruptly change at the interface. The other way, and similarly, if you look at Nd is very large number, say 10 raised to 16 per centimeter cube, and it abruptly change at the interface, becomes 0. So this is called abrupt junction. So junction capacitance depends upon how the doping changes from P side to N side, whether it is abruptly changing. The other way we can think about is like which is more a practical case, where you have Na on one side and then it is 0 on the other side, but it goes linearly varying. Okay, so this is called this is called grading, the way it which the concentration is changing with respect to distance from one end. So this side it is Na, that side it is 0, but in between it is changing like a linear way. And similarly we have Nd on this side and 0 on this side, and then this also will be changing linearly too. So this is a linear graded junction. So this is abrupt junction, and here we have abrupt junction is also called a step junction. Okay, so the other possibility is shown here. So this is linearly graded junctions. Okay, so depending upon the way, so this is more practical, because when you manufacture it, it is very difficult to create abrupt junction, a PN junction. Whenever you make it, there will be a region where there is a grading that happens. Okay, depending upon this, whether it is linear or abrupt, you can have parabolic also, where instead of a straight line you will have something like a parabola. Okay, something like more a smooth curve like this. So these are various ways in which the grading can be, and depending upon that we will have different expression for the capacitance. Okay, so the capacitance is given by C, the junction capacitance is given by C0 divided by 1 plus the reverse bias voltage divided by VBI. This is the built-in voltage across the junction, which we earlier discussed in earlier class, and then this thing is raised to the power mj. So mj is a quantity that is determined by the type of interface or type of junction. Okay, whether it is, so mj is equal to half for abrupt junction, and it is equal to 1 by 3 for linearly graded junction. Okay, so everything here is per unit area. Okay, so yeah, this is the total capacitance. Okay, I am not saying per unit area here, but we will come into actual evaluation of the capacitance will depend upon the area bit of the junction. Okay, so there we need to evaluate CO. CO is what? CO is basically the capacitance when VR is equal to when VR is equal to so CO is the zero bias capacitance. CO is called zero bias capacitance. So because the capacitance change with reverse bias voltage, so if VR is equal to 0, then you can see that it will be just 1 raised to mj, which is 1, and therefore we will get C as C0. Okay, now this value of C0 will depend upon this will depend upon what? Depend upon the area of cross section. So one of the difficulty that we need to undertake is how much is the area of cross section for each of this junction. So this capacitance is there at the drain to bulk as well as source to bulk. Okay, CDB and CSB. Okay, so earlier I have shown the capacitance like this. These two capacitance is what we are now looking at. So these are both junction capacitance. Okay, so this is called CSB and this is CDB. Okay, so both are the C0 divided by 1 plus VR by VBI. Now C0, as I said, it is the total capacitance when we apply zero bias, and it depends upon the area of cross section. So in order to find the area of cross section, we need to have a good imagination of this n plus region in a 3D. Okay, so this is extending like this also, like this, right? Everything is extending like this. So if you look at the n plus region, it extends like this. So the area which we are looking here is and also this if you look at there is extension to this side also, but this will not extend, but the bulk material will extend, but this diffusion region will stop somewhere here. Okay, which is what determines the W. And but the substrate is like a wafer, so that will continue to extend. So we have a region like this. So we need to calculate the area of cross section. So let's approximate it as a box like this, a rectanguloid. So approximately this is how it looks like. Now the dimensions, this is W, and we can call this as X. Okay, this is basically the width of the diffusion region. X is basically this. Okay, this is X and this depth is W, and one more parameter is there, that is the depth. Depth means how much it is coming down, so that we will call it as Xj. Okay, this is the amount which it comes down into the wafer vertically. Vertical distance or vertical depth is what Xj is, X suffix j, and the lateral dimension, that is something that we decide how much it should be, X, and W also something that we decide, but Xj is a process parameter. So to evaluate C0, so what we do is we say that the junction capacitance per unit area, we will take it as Cj. Okay, so then we just need to multiply Cj. In order to get C naught, we just need to multiply Cj with the total area. So area means we need to consider this area. This is a PN junction, this is also a PN junction, and similarly back as well as left side as well as bottom. So generally what is the procedure is you divide it into side wall plus bottom. Okay, so therefore C naught is equal to Cj into side wall area plus bottom area. Okay, so we split it into two things. One is the side wall area. Now side wall area is evaluated separately, and bottom area is evaluated separately. So what is the side wall area? Side wall area is basically the perimeter of the n plus diffusion region multiply perimeter multiplied by Xj. Okay, perimeter into, so this may look confusing, so so maybe I should not put it here. So instead of xj, let me write it as the depth of diffusion. Diffusion depth. Okay, so this is xj. So this is what I mean by diffusion depth. So that is the side wall area, and then bottom area is what? So bottom area is basically x into w, right? So that is quite easy to see. X is basically the breadth, and w is like the length of this box, and then if you multiply that, so perimeter multiplied by diffusion depth, that will give you the side wall area, and bottom area is x, which is this lateral parameter multiplied by the width of the device. Okay, so now so this is a side wall, we will call it, and this we will call it as a bottom. Okay, so therefore a side wall is, now what is the perimeter? So perimeter is basically w plus x 2 times. Now so 2w or 2 into w plus x. So this is basically the perimeter, which we call as this is the perimeter of any rectangular shape, the length plus breadth into 2, and this will be to find the area, we need to multiply this with xj. Okay, so perimeter of the n plus diffusion multiplied by diffusion depth. So this you can write it as p side wall into xj, and a bottom is as I have written, it is xw. Okay, so x is basically lateral dimension and the width is w. Okay, so yeah, so we have now determined the area. Now we can add this area and we can write the expression for C naught. Therefore C naught is equal to Cj, which is per unit area, and then P side wall xj plus x into w. Okay, that is a bottom. So that is a side wall plus a bottom. Okay, so if you know C naught, then you can find out the total junction capacitance, which we will denote as Cn. So Cn is going to be Cj into Cj into, so yeah, Cj into PSW xj plus xw. So this is the area. Cj is capacitance per unit area. This divided by, due to the biasing, there is a factor, right? So that is 1 plus VR by VBI all raised to mj. So this is equal to 1 plus V. This is the reverse bias voltage across the junction divided by VBI built-in voltage all raised to mj. So this is basically the junction capacity. Again, there are slight more details we need to take into account depending upon the region of operation. So this is valid for basically valid for under certain conditions. So it is valid for depletion region. Okay, this is only valid for depletion region. Why? Because if we go to the strong inversion, what is going to happen is different. So if we go to the strong inversion, there is going to be a channel that is between these two regions. Okay, there is going to be a channel created, so there will be a channel, and therefore this side should not be considered in the evaluation because the junction is not there. There is no capacitance here because these two sides are joined through this channel in between, and therefore the left side wall, when we count the area, the left side wall should not be incorporated. Okay, so when you go to so then it will be slightly more different expression, but the idea is already here. In order to evaluate the junction capacitance, we need to look at basically the junction capacitance per unit area, that is your Cj, and then multiplied with the total area, and also incorporate the effect of reverse bias in changing the capacitance per unit area. So if you look at the capacitance per unit area, it is basically this, and then that is multiplied with the area. Okay, so this is basically capacitance, junction capacitance per unit area. Okay, then it is multiplied with the area to get the total capacitance. So we have roughly evaluated the expression for various capacitance. Now let's come back to all the parasitic capacitance. So let me draw a symbol and do this. So this is our MOSFET. Okay, so let me use a different color. So there is a capacitor like this. There is another capacitor like this, and the bulk I am assuming to be connected to the ground. So I will show. Okay, so this ground point is bulk, and this is your source, this is your drain, and this is your gate. So these are the different capacitors. Now I have not shown the gate to bulk capacitor, and the reason for that I am coming into. So this is CGS, CGD, CSB, CDB. Okay, so now what is my CGS? So CGS, that is gate to source capacitor. So earlier I have found out what is called CG, gate capacitance. What I will do is I will divide it into two parts. I will distribute one part to the source, other part to the gate. Okay, so gate capacitance, that is, first we saw the overlap capacitance, and so that overlap capacitance is also between gate and source. So C overlap is there, and added to that I have CG by 2. Okay, so that is my CGS. Now what is CGD? CGD is again half of the gate capacitance I will put here, and then the other side also we have overlap capacitance. So these are my CGS and CGD. Now coming to CSB. Now what is this capacitance? This capacitance is basically the junction capacitance, right? And so it's the junction capacitance. So that is basically the expression that earlier we have derived, Cn. yeah. So there is a but this will be different for source and drain, because the bias voltage in general are not the same. So CSB, when I find out, I have to give the voltage correctly. So here VR means VSB is going to be my VR. Okay, whatever is the source voltage with respect to the bulk voltage, so that I need to put. Okay, so and also the perimeter and the bottom area, these things could be different for the drain side and the source side. Okay, so that is also possible. So usually area for the, so now I'm coming into some of the SPICE parameters. So in SPICE parameters you can specify some of these. So before I write this, let me also denote some of the SPICE parameters. So in SPICE, length and width we have specified, right? As a design parameter we can specify that. Probably you might have done it in your last experiment. But in addition to that, there are some more things that we can specify. What is the area at the source, that is the bottom area at the source. What is AS? So let me say area at the source, AS, you can specify that. And then you can also specify the perimeter of the source. So that is PS, you can specify that. Okay, so this will be a length and this will be an area. So this is basically the bottom area. Okay, these are optional parameters. Earlier you did not, bottom. Okay, so perimeter of the source, area of the source. Okay, bottom area of the source. So AS and PS. Similarly, you have for drain, perimeter, the SPICE parameter is AD. Okay, that you can specify. And then this is the area, AD is the area. Okay, area AD or perimeter PD. Okay, so you can specify these things. Okay, so therefore the expression can be written like this. So C, let me write for source first. So C SB capacitance is basically Cj into AS divided by 1 plus V, this is VSB divided by VBI all raised to MJ. Okay, MJ, VBI, CJ, these are process parameter, but AS is basically a design parameter. Okay, so this is one component plus let me write CJSW. So this is side wall, and we are multiplying with the perimeter, so which is PS. PS is the SPICE parameter, that is also a design parameter, where CJSW. So if you compare with the previous relationship, I did not split it into two category, but and this is again VSB divided by VBI. And in general, the grading parameter MJ could be different for the side wall and sidewall and the bottom. So MJSW is for the sidewall and MJ is for the bottom. Okay, so if I go back to that earlier expression, so if you look at here, so this xj I am multiplying with the Cj, and that is what I call it as CJSW into PSW. Okay, CJSW into PS. So let me write that as a note. So CJSW is Cj multiplying Xj. Okay, because I told you these both are process parameters, so it is convenient to just to take the product and consider as one process parameter, and that is how the SPICE model take it. Okay, so the process parameter CJSW, you can specify it is capacitance per unit length. Per unit length. Okay, so that multiplied by the perimeter. PS is the perimeter at the source, AS is the area at the source, and VSB is the bias voltage between source and bulk, and VBI is basically the built-in voltage. So this is CSB. Now one more capacitance we have, which is CDB. It will be similar. So CJ, then instead of AS we will have AD divided by 1 plus. Now the voltage is going to be different. This is the, because if there is a VDS which is non-zero, VSB and VDB are going to be different. So we need, usually the junction is more wider depletion region in the drain side. So this is CJSW, PD, perimeter on the drain side, 1 plus VSB into MJSW. Okay, so we got these 4 capacitors. So this is entirely junction capacitor at the source, source to bulk junction capacitors. This is drain to bulk. The only difference, okay, I have made it. So this should be again VDB. Okay, VDB, not VSB. So VSB is source to bulk voltage, VDB is drain to bulk voltage, and all this AD and PD is AS and PS. They are design parameters. You can specify it when you draw the layout. You will come into layout etc. later. But in SPICE model, you can specify this along with the LW. You can also specify these 4 additional parameter AS, PS, AD, PD. And this weekend or next lab, that is on next Monday, we will put on these parameters and do the SPICE simulation. Okay, so yeah, so we have the 4 capacitor, and so initially I described 3 kinds of capacitor. The origin of the capacitance are of 3 kinds. One is basically the overlap capacitance because of the extension of the diffusion region underneath the oxide layer. So that is overlap capacitance. Then I said about gate capacitance. So overlap capacitance has gone into CGS as well as CGD, and similarly gate capacitance I have divided and distributed it into CGS and CGD. So CGS is basically having 2 components. One is the overlap, the other is basically the gate, the portion coming from gate capacitance. Again, there is some catch further. There are some further things you have to look into. This division into equal division or equal distribution of CG, one to the source side and the others to the drain side, that is valid only when the device is operating in the linear region. Okay, so under that condition this is valid, but if the device is operating in the saturation region, so I have to specify that in addition. Okay, so this is these two are valid for device in linear region. Linear means linear before saturation region. Okay, so that is before pinch off. Before pinch off, this is valid. This distribution is valid, and the reason is this. So before pinch off, we know that the channel is extending from source to drain, and it is uniform. So this channel will be like uniform, like this. There is no difference. The electrons are coming equally on the source side and the drain side, more or less. You can assume that, and therefore the capacitance on this side as well as this side, you know, they are relatively equally distributed. Okay, so this is the linear region of operation. Now when you go to so this is linear region. Now if you go to the saturation region, there is a difference in the way the channel is looking. So if this is one n plus and this is another n plus, the channel usually go like this. This will be your channel. It is not symmetric. So this is your gate. This is okay. This is your gate, and this is your source, and this is your drain. So you can see that most of the channel is so to distinguish it, I am showing it with a different color. So here it is symmetrically distributed, whereas in saturation it is like this. So this is my condition in saturation region, and therefore the distribution of the gate capacitance between source and okay, if I want to show one more thing, that is when it is in cutoff region. Okay, so that also we can have. So in cutoff region there is no channel, it is completely absent. There is no channel here, and it will be like this. In this case the scenario is even different. Nothing can be attributed to source or drain because the capacitance is entirely between gate and bulk. So here the gate capacitance, so here Cg is equal to Cgb, here Cg is equal to or Cg okay, Cg is equal to Cgs plus Cgd, where Cgs is Cg by 2 and Cgd is equal to Cg by 2. Okay, they are equally distributed. Whereas in the saturation region, again Cg is same as Cgs plus Cgd, but Cgs is usually 2 by 3 of Cg, and Cgd is 1 by 3 of Cg. So that means it's not equal distribution. There is a so this, if you approximate it like a triangle, the charge distribution, you can see that the capacitance attributed between gate to drain is lesser, and it is like 1 by 3rd compared to the capacitance between. So you can combine and write everything in one form, that is like, in general, irrespective of the region of operation, your Cg, gate capacitance, has Cgb, then Cgs plus Cgd. okay, but CGB is 0 for linear and saturation. So this is cutoff. So in cutoff only CGB, the total gate capacitance is attributed between the metal and the bulk or body. Okay, in linear there is no such capacitance between bulk, because the source and drain is connected with a channel, and that is why there is no capacitance between source and bulk. It is distributed between source and drain. So CGB is absent here. So one of this will be absent, or multiple of these 3 components will be absent, or it could be like equal distribution between the 2 or unequal distribution. So this all depends upon what is the region of operation. So there is so much these are the so much or details to the applicability of the expression that I have. So here I have assumed it is operating in linear region and therefore equal distribution. Otherwise 2 by 3 and 1 by 3 is a common approach. So and CSB and CDB, it depends upon those VSB and VDB, okay, those bias voltage, reverse bias voltage of the junction. So they are junction capacitors. So 3 capacitance have origin in 3 sources. One is overlap, the other is gate capacitance, and the third one is junction capacitance. Okay, ultimately this will be distributed into 4 capacitance as I have shown here. And I did not explain the resistance part. We will see that in the next class. So we are looking today at the RC model. So RC model has resistance as well as capacitor, but we discussed the capacitor, parasitic capacitance, various kinds, but the resistance offered by the MOSFET when ID flows through it, so that is the R. And with the help of these capacitors and resistance, we can arrive at a simple model which can be used to evaluate quickly. We can analyze the circuit. So that is the goal why we do all of this. So let me show you that model. So that model, the resistance capacitance model, if you look at, it will be like this. Plus the switch, we have last class discussed about a switch, so I am drawing that also. So MOSFET is operating like a switch, but in the last class we said a perfect switch, but now I am saying it is not a perfect switch. There is going to be resistance and capacitance. So this is the resistance of the NMOS, Rn, and then these are the capacitance. So let's say this is the source side and this is the drain side, and this is your CSB, CDB, okay, and between, so this will be CGS and CGD. Okay, so this is our approximate RC model of NMOS transistor. Okay, so we have found out the capacitance, but we did not write the resistance, which we will do in the next class.